Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, what do you want in your coffee? Do your jobs for free, no longer. Exposed telephone line and how to get it buried. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. What do you want in your coffee? Not my story, but it happened to a friend of mine. Like many Canadians, he worked in a famous coffee chain named after a hockey player. These restaurants can get very busy during the peak times of the day, so patience can run a tad thin in the workers. My friend lived in a small town with a high retiree population. So this coffee house gave a seniors discount and the seniors knew about it. It was common that they would request their discount along with their order to ensure they would get their discount. One day, a senior woman came in during the afternoon rush and my friend greeted her as he normally did. "How may I help you?" "Old lady, I want a small coffee and my senior's discount." Friend, pouring the coffee into the cup, "Okay, what would you like in your coffee?" "Old lady, I want my senior's discount." Friend, "Yes, ma'am. I will give you your discount. How do you take your coffee?" Old lady, getting more demanding, "I want my senior's discount." Friend, getting exasperated, "Ma'am, I understand. I will give you your discount, but I first need to make your coffee. What do you want in your coffee?" Old lady, "My senior's discount." My friend had reached his end. The senior's discount on a small coffee worked out to be about 10 cents, so he reached into the cash till, picked out a shiny new dime, dropped it into the coffee, put the lid on, handed it to the old lady and said, "Okay ma'am. One small coffee with the senior's discount." He immediately went for a break and never came back. Do your jobs for free, no longer. This is my friend's story. He works in data management for an infrastructure company, one that has major government contracts for maintenance and replacement. When we worked together, we had a friendly competition with our numbers each day, seeing which of us could beat the other in actions closed, basic data capture stuff, but the high volume boring crap. Due to our competitiveness, the depths numbers were stellar and our boss did less and less, already in their 60s 7 to 8 years ago and quite literally awaiting retirement. Eventually I leave the company and my friend continues doing gangbusters numbers, carrying the team as well as training new employees. Due to his character and work ethic, he gets asked to assist with project management, specifically the implementation of a new app solution that would allow for 40% reduction in existing staff, because of course. He's working on this for 2 years, leading meetings and advising project management decision makers, all while making £26,000 and still doing his manager's job. It eventually reaches the point where the manager is taking him into meetings so he can answer questions the manager should know the answers to. What's very important to this tale is my friend's character. He is genuinely one of the most helpful, friendly and positive dudes you're likely to meet, always happy to help but also not inclined to rock the boat if he considers a situation unfair, the perfect employee to take advantage of. So of course COVID happens and after returning to the office he is told there is no budget for a pay rise above 1.7%. He points out to the department head, boss's boss, how he's been project managing, doing his manager's work, all while keeping the department numbers looking tasty. Department head acknowledges this but says his hands are tied, they just don't have the budget. My friend says, "Okay, I'll just stop then, and only do my specific job." Before he does this, and a few days after the above conversation, department head mentions a bonus fund that may be available for those that have gone above and beyond, and that he's on course to receive something. He receives £200. This pissed him off considering he's been doing project manager job and manager's job close to 3 years, for less than half his manager's salary and 1/3 a PM's salary. So he stops. He stopped everything but his own responsibilities. He stopped assisting the PM team, stopped answering manager-level questions in meetings and stops training new staff. The manager then starts in with the passive-aggressive, "Your attitude has really changed recently, and, you need to assist the team," etc. He tells manager and department head that they don't have the budget, and he's happy with his responsibilities as outlined in his contract. Unfortunately, he's still there in the same job, but useless manager has had to struggle through making a fool of themselves in various meetings, and department head now gives him the stink eye a few times a week. Hopefully, I can help him find a better company very soon. Exposed telephone line and how to get it buried. Okay, disclaimers first. This happened approximately in 2013/2014-ish. It's been a while. The conversations are obviously rephrased, and are not necessarily verbatim. This story was told to me by the colleague in question. I have always known this dude to be a stand-up guy, and knowing what went on in this industry, I have no trouble believing the veracity of the story. Still, if he lied to me, I'm lying to you. I'm sorry this is long, but you unfortunately need a bunch of local and legal context. Years ago, I worked in technical support for an Australian ISP called iiNet. Colleague, let's call him Dave, which obviously wasn't his name, and I both supported ADSL1 and ADSL2 plus connections running over PSTN, POTS. All the copper running between the telephone exchange and customer premises was owned by a third party, Telstra, and my company sold ADSL and phone services over their lines. Dave got a call from a customer who bought the property from a previous owner. The property was 100 plus years old, which is old in Australia, near the center of a major city. The previous owner was an old lady who only had a phone line there. They decided to renovate it and introduce basics like internet access. They called Dave, and Dave can obviously hear there's noise on the line. The copper lines, likely 60 plus years old, are probably to blame. Dave lodges the fault with Telstra. Few days later, they go out and fix the issue. Dave has the internet connected at the customer's property, and the speeds are below 1.5 megabits per second, but the line length indicates they should be getting at least 8 megabits per second. The customer had all the wiring in the house redone during the renovation and brought up to modern spec, so we know it's not customer's wiring. 1.5 megabits per second is the minimum speed the line has to hit, so they go ahead, lodge an ADSL fault. Telstra sends a tech report says no fault found. The customer gets slung with 200 plus AUD in incorrect callout fees. Internet still shit. Dave and customer go back and forth, eventually filing multiple phone and ADSL faults. It's obvious that the copper is sh*T because when it rains, there's noise on the line, but when the line dries out, the noise goes away. After multiple faults filed, Telstra finally sends out a team who dig up the line between the customer's house and the street, the so-called in-place, but no doubt due to some stupid reason, the trench crew have to leave before the Telstra tech dude even arrives to replace the wire. So, the trenching crew fills in the trench not to leave an unaccounted hazard. The Telstra tech comes later on, replaces the line, and just leaves it running over the front lawn, given that the trench is filled in. The customer calls in, absolutely livid. When will the Telstra crew come in to bury the line? Dave checks with the wholesale contact, who tells him that the fault is resolved, and the issue is closed. Nobody is coming. The customer asks if they can bury the line themselves, but our standing orders are to heavily discourage that. The cable is property of Telstra, and the trench has to be certain spec and other stuff. Dave informs him that they should not do it. The customer calls around with few companies who do such work, but the moment he tells them he wants them to bury a Telstra in place, they all nope out of the job. A few days later, the customer calls, wanting us to do something. We have nothing to do. The line is working properly now, so there is no fault. Ultimately, Telstra knows about the issue. Telstra's tech left it that way and noted so in his report. They just don't care. Dave asks customer for pictures of the cable. With the pictures, Dave goes to Telstra Wholesale, and after calling in a few favors, he manages to convince the dude at Telstra to add the issue to what they call project list, which is a formal list of network segments needing improvements. But the list is prioritized by severity and impact, and the Telstra Wholesale guy tells Dave that there's no ETA and there are projects on this list that have sat there for 10+ years. Dave informs the customer, and they are willing to give it a few months to see if Telstra does anything. 6 months later, they call. There's been no movement. There likely won't be any movement. So, the customer asks Dave. Customer, so, you're telling me that the line is not supposed to run over open ground, and Telstra knows that, and they know the line is exposed, and they still won't do anything? Dave, pretty much. Customer, and what happens if it gets damaged? Dave, Telstra has a legal obligation to keep the telephone line working, in case of emergency, so they must fix it within 2 to 5 working days. Customer, and who pays for that? Dave, Telstra does. It's their property. You only pay if there is no fault, for tech's time. This is why we cannot lodge a fault right now. Your line is working. But if it was not working, we could lodge a fault, and they would fix it at their cost. Customer, Okay. Couple days later, the customer calls, their phone is down. Their brother-in-law managed to snag the line and damage it with his car. Dave lodges a fault. Telstra comes out, fixes it. Leaves the line above ground. A few weeks later, the customer calls again. They were mowing their lawn, and they hit the line with the lawnmower blade. No phone. Fault filed. Telstra comes out, and pays for the fix. The line is still above ground. A month later, the wife was gardening, and accidentally put a shovel through the line. He apologized profusely. Fault filed. Telstra fixes. Telstra pays. Line still not buried. You get the idea. Every few weeks or months, they call with a more outrageous scenario that caused damage to the line. Every call-out is at minimum $200 a pop for Telstra. After the 6th fault is fixed, Dave called the customer for follow-up call to check if everything is working. The customer says it is. And funnily enough, Telstra Tech brought along a trenching crew, who buried the line properly. Customer said, curious they'd put in the effort to fix such a low-impact and low-severity issue. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.